Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Everyday Coppertunity channel for Premier Train entry number 21. I'd like to start off by saying thank you to Mad Stacker and all of the crew, Will's Treasure, Silver Bull30, Wild West Stacker, Pistol Packing Pilot, Ringmaster Ray, and Mrs. Coin Crew for once again having me in as part of the Premier Train. I appreciate you all. So yesterday I was at work and I came across some items that were discarded and or derelict. So I thought that I might come along and share them here. Now this is not my normal type of thing, but since I thought they were pretty cool and they're later back from our piece of history, I thought I would share a bunch of 45s that I found. This first one is called Funky Worm on one side, and it's called Paint Me on the other side. This is by the Ohio Players. We got Show and Tell on one side and Listen to Me on the other side. That's by Al Wilson. Got If Loving You Is Wrong, I Don't Want to Be Right by Luther Ingram. Okay, now I know that one. The other side of that is Putting Game Down. Let's see, The Way You Do the Things You Do. Obviously, I know that one. And Just Let Me Know, I don't know that one. That is Gordy Music, and that is The Temptations. If you don't know the music of The Temptations, my friends, you are missing out. Got a record from Motown called Captain Quick Draw on one side and Brick House on the other side. Of course, we all know Brick House by the Commodores. That's where we got good old Lionel Richie from. From MGM Music, we have Stand By Me on one side and You're Good Enough for Me on the other side. That's by Spider Turner. Of course, Stand By Me is also a motion picture. Great song, great movie. Let's see, this next one is called Love Train on one side and Who Am I on the other side. This is by the OJs. Now, some of these are in really nice condition. Of course, there are some that are not in as nice condition. I think the majority of them are playable. One's called Just to Be Close to You on one side. On the other side is Thumpin' Music. It's another one from Motown by the Commodores. Let's see. He Made Woman for Man on one side. And Don't Let My Baby Ride by O.V. Wright. I don't know that one. So if y'all know some of these bands, obviously talk about it in the comments. Future Stars is the label. This one is Wrong Too Long on one side and Part of the Game on the other side. This is Matilda Jones. Taking a walk down memory lane from a place I was never at. 20th Century Fox Records. This is Can't Get Enough of Your Love, Babe on one side and Just Not Enough. This is Barry White. I can already get that light on there just right. Terrible lighting in here. Y'all let me know if y'all are having fun, if this is a kind of thing y'all would like for us to do again. We got to love one another by The Rock on one side, and Don't Abuse Your Faithful Love by Joanne Garrett and The Rock on the other side. Let's see, The Deeper I Go, the Better It Gets on one side. Now Run and Tell That on the other side. This is Denise LaSalle. LaSalle. Y'all have to definitely hit me up in the comments if y'all know that and let me know so I can get that right. Money Records, Make Me Yours on one side, and I Will Not Cry on the other side. That's by Betty Swan. The individual record companies back then, man, it was something. And to be able to say that you had the number one album or the number one record in the country, but records back then only had one song on both sides or one song on each side. And the difference in that is, I mean, they could have the same song on both sides or have one song on each side. So this one is I Wish on one side and You and I on the other. That's Stevie Wonder. I know the name, but I do not know the music. Alright. This is not something you'd normally hear me say or talk about, but this is a James Brown song, and it's called Stoned to the Bone. And on the other side is Stoned to the Bone some more. Interesting listening, I'm sure, for some. I'm a James Brown fan, but I do not know that song. Alright, next up from Atlantic Records, we have Soul Dance number 3 on one side, and You Can't Stand Alone on the other side. That's by Mr. Wilson Pickett. Wonder how many people are going to yell at me in the comments for putting my fingers all over the records. We got Bamboo Records, Backfield in Motion on one side, and Do Right Baby on the other side. This is by a group, I guess, called Mel and Tim. Stop Half Loving These Women on one side, and Where Was He on the other side. This is by Mr. Jimmy Lewis on Volt Records from 1973. Not a whole lot of these records have a date on them, or even a year at that, so that's kind of neat. There we go. Alright, next up on Atlantic Records, we have Rock With Me on one side and Look Into Your Heart on the other side. These are both by the amazing Aretha Franklin. Next up on Backbeat Records, we have I Was Born All Over on one side and When You Took Your Love From Me on the other side. These are by, I think it's O.Y. Wright. It's kind of worn out, a little hard to tell. It's either, could be a G, but I think it's just an O. O.Y. Wright. Spring Records, I Just Can't Stand It on one side and Ask Me What You Want on the other side. That is by Millie Jackson. Look how thick these things are. Alright, Showland Records. This is Wild Hog Hop on one side and Bopping the Rock on the other. This is Benny Hess and his Rockers. It's really a bright red. I know it looks pink on the screen, but it's really a bright red in the center of that. Alright, next up we have Wear This Ring with Love on one side, and I Bet You Get the One Who Loves You on the other. That's the Detroit Emeralds. Alright, we got Ain't Nothing You Can Do on one side and Do What You Set Out to Do on the other by Bobby Bland on Duke Records. I wonder, do we have any record collectors out there in our audience? And if you collect old records, do you even know who some of these artists are? Next up, we have Skinny Legs and All on one side, and Watch the One That Brings the Bad News on the other side by Mr. Joe Tex on Dial Records. Alright, we got Precious Lord Part 1 on one side, Precious Lord Part 2 on the other side. This is by Reverend W. Leo Daniels, MCA Records. Alright, our last record is from Atlantic Records. It is Ain't No Way on one side and Since You've Been Gone, or Sweet Sweet Baby Since You've Been Gone on the other side by Mrs. Aretha Franklin. That's a great way to close out that. I also happened to come across one 8-track. Stevie Wonder, Looking Back. An 8-track, and it looks like it might actually still play. Thank You for Loving Me All the Way, Contract on Love, Finger Tips Part 2, Workout Stevie Workout, Castles in the Sand, Hey Harmonica Man, Hey Harmonica Man, High Heel Sneakers, Uptight, Everything's Alright. That's probably the only song I know on this album. Nothing's Too Good for My Baby, Blowing in the Wind, Ain't That Asking for Trouble, Ain't That Asking for Trouble, I'd Cry, A Place in the Sun, Sylvia, Down to Earth, Thank You Love, Hey Love, Traveling Man, Until You Come Back to Me, That's What I'm Gonna Do, I Was Made to Love Her, and I'm Wondering. Alright, well, I think I've held y'all up long enough on this musical venture today. Once again, I wanted to say thank you to Mad Stacker, Will's Treasures, Silver Bull30, Wild West Stacker, Pistol Packing Pilot, Ringmaster Ray, and Mrs. Coin Crew. Everybody head on out and head on over to Pistol Packing Pilot. Have a fantastic day, and you know that I will catch you on the flip side.